have to have a lot of watching going on, because you want to make sure that nobody is going to abuse the system and hurt other people. And that can work. It can. And there are ways to do that. I'll tell you something most people don't know. If you, for example, in Norway or Sweden, become a police officer, they tell you up front that all your actions in public life, and even some of them in private life, because if you're a public servant, by the way, then you're subject to being watched even to some degree in your private life. Not in your personal bedroom, but if you obviously murder somebody in your private space and they find out, then that's it. But you are told that at any time during your public service in public, you will be watched and observed and even maybe even tested to see that you're working according to the laws, that you're a good police officer, that you're a good soldier, that you're a good public government official, that you're not doing things that are corrupt. You're told that you may be watched. Actually, the same thing is true in the United States, except that it doesn't work very well, and I'll tell you that another time why. But in the United States, we also are told if you want to become an FBI agent, or if you want to become a police officer, if you want to become a government official on a federal level or a state or local level, whether it's executive as a governor or as a president or as a mayor of a city, or it's just a member of the community board or a Senate or Congress, you are told that your actions may be watched. Your public actions may be watched by officials, government officials, federal agents, may be observing you, and you better behave. Unfortunately, a lot of people take that for granted, that there's just too many people to be watched and not everybody's being watched, and they try to get away with stuff. And some do, but a lot of them don't, and they get caught. So watching over the watchers is essential to democracy. Democracy has inherent problems. It has to. Because it gives you more freedom as an individual, true democracy, by the way, gives you more freedom as an individual, it also means that there's more of a chance that you will abuse it, that you will misuse democracy. And to have freedom means that government has to have some power over your life, but not too much. What power should government have is a big question. Now, in a social democracy, the public in a democratic process decide what laws will exist necessary to maintain a healthiest society. A society that does promote individual personal freedom, but not at the expense of society as a whole, and not at the expense of the environments. And it's a difficult balance to keep, but if you have a creative mind, you can imagine there are better solutions to problems than you normally find in an extreme capitalist environment like the United States has been and seems to continue to be. Let's hope that changes, and I believe that Barack Obama and Joe Biden are sincere in making a social democracy out of the United States, because that's the only form of government and society and economy that is stable enough. And the United States is so big that the whole world is interdependent on the United States' stability. The world gets to be so complex when you really think about it, that it's pretty sad when people become communist or fascist or extreme capitalist or even socialist, because they don't seem to understand how things really work. It's about mass phenomena effect or cumulative effect. People often, when they study a certain field of science or when they study politics, they are not taught, or at least they don't remember the most important lesson, that everything is interconnected, everything is interdependent. We're all connected to each other. The whole planet, the whole, I won't say the universe, but the whole planet's life is connected, and everything one individual does, what every individual does has an impact on everybody else to some degree. So imagine all these people. Let's say you start a club and you have 10 members. Managing 10 people is hard enough. It's really hard. Try doing it yourself. Having 10 people and making it a democratic club that still manages to accomplish its intended goals is not easy. So can you imagine having to be the mayor of a city of 30,000 people or millions of people, or to be the president of a country that has 250 to 350 million people or a billion people? I mean, people who are not experienced in government and in governance and who have never been in politics long enough don't understand how complex things are. And you know what? The extreme right, who pretend to be moderate right sometimes, take advantage of your lack of knowledge and experience about governance, how complex it is. You need very, very, critical observation. You have to be able to think about how things can affect things in terms of mass phenomenon effect, cumulative effect. In other words, if so many people are doing the exact same thing, can it become a problem? I'll give you a very simple example. A guy who does YouTube videos with his friend, and they use loudspeakers in London. Everybody thinks it's great, groovy. Go out there in free speech and take your megaphone, which is these really loud electronic, speaking devices, and they blast their opinion in public, and they yell and scream all kinds of things. Some of it very meaningful, some of it thought-provoking, but some of it's just quite annoying. And they say they have a right to do that because by law, actually, in London, in theory, you have a right to do that. The problem is, if everybody goes around without a permit, without a license to protest, and takes one of these megaphones, and if too many people start, not everyone, but if too many people, let's say 3 or 4 people in the same part of the city, in the same square, start blasting away with megaphones, A, you won't be able to hear any one of them properly. B, they're going to go at each other eventually. There's going to be fights and scuffles about this. And what about the people in the hotels downtown who are trying to sleep after a long flight, to come to visit beautiful London where I live right now? All these megaphones blasting away, it's not fair. So you have to have laws in any situation in society where, yes, if you let one person do it, then you have to let everybody. And if you let everybody, it's not going to be a problem. Because maybe if one person does it, or two, it might not be a problem. But if everybody does it at the same time, it's a problem. So that's why in terms of megaphones, technically you have to get a permit to do that. Because a megaphone is an electronic device that amplifies your voice to such an extent that you're getting a lot more attention than you normally would get with your natural voice. I personally think the fair option, a balanced option without having a permit, is to make your own cone, just a simple physical cone, like fold it into a cone shape, and then it'll amplify your voice naturally to some extent, but it won't be electronic, and therefore you get by not offending people who are trying to sleep in the hotel room, or even who are at an office who are working all day and they have a headache. Or who may be living nearby, who actually live, all their lives nearby, and they can't get decent rest and sleep because you're blasting away with your megaphone. And you know what? People who do that, like these 2 guys who have these great YouTube videos, don't realize that some of those people work at night and have to sleep at day, and they're disturbing their sleep. And what about the people who are elderly and sick and who can't take such loud noises? So I mean, really. And that's, I'm using this as an example. In governance, and when you govern people, you have to decide, if I let one do it, it's fine maybe, but what if everybody then wants to do it? If I let one, I have to let everybody. And if I let everybody, it's going to become a problem. Now, getting back to social democracy. The beauty about social democracy is that it is a sustainable socioeconomic political system. And it is good. It protects individual rights and freedoms, and when it's properly applied. Let me remind you again. Just because somebody says, I'm a social democrat, and he seems to say things that are that way, if he doesn't govern that way, he's not. Or she's not, whatever. So the point is, if you look at this, and there's another graphic I want to show you. World population. Demographics is an important issue. In Europe and the United States, the birth rates have been dropping, and the number of elderly who are living much longer because of artificial means, and also because of they're lucky enough, or they have enough money. Because the number of elderly is increasing disproportionate to the number of people in society, there are a lot more people who are sick and weak and elderly who need help, and there are not enough young people to do the hard work to keep on putting money into the government system so that those people who are elderly can have the benefits that they work so hard for themselves.